Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of 30 Minutes with a Modern Mystic. I'm Sascha, this is Michael, and today we talk about the art of life. Michael, how did you come up with that topic?
Well, you just showed me some art
Oh,
that you
there.
had bought in Germany, and it made me feel that is people do artwork very well, but the art of living and of life, people mostly do appallingly badly, and even people who do beautiful art and paintings go back into their life and struggle terribly. And so, for instance, just to look at that, I know an artist who's a brilliant investment artist. Well, he's retired now, but he struggled in life. He could never have abundance. He never had abundance. And the art of life is that everything flows to you in a natural way, whereas what we do, everybody struggles for it. Struggle, because this is the way we've been conditioned.
So when we say the art of life, that to me implies something creative, as art is something creative. And then also it applies something beyond the control of our intellect and will, and something that is magical in the moment, right? Does that word art therefore give it all the meaning it needs to?
Humanity is the creative evolution of consciousness. If you keep doing the same thing every day, it's not terribly creative. And when you get locked in on a subconscious program, this is basically what happens. Same thoughts, same emotions, and same things day after day. And that's one thing. But when it becomes lifetime after lifetime, and for thousands of years, you begin to wonder if there might be something more to life. And I've often thought of using, when I used to do intensive, the art of life and living. Nobody else seemed enthusiastic over it except me. And I do feel there is an incredible art to living to allow life to flow through you. So let me put forward I often used to do this. Imagine a doorway, and there's one behind me leading outside. Now, let's call that an aperture. Now, if that door is closed, you can't walk through it, obviously. And for most people, they stand at the closed door. But in reality, we are that door in life. We're the aperture through which life flows. So if I close that door behind me, the outside air can't come in and the inside air can't go out. But if you look at it, that each human being is an aperture through which life flows, then how you are as life flows through you, you are the door, the aperture. As life flows through you, it picks up your thoughts, your emotions, your whole energy, and that is expressed and manifest in what you call life. And so that's made manifest. So you're the creator, you are the creator, you are the aperture through which life flows. And when you realize it picks up every nuance of every thought, it picks up your old subconscious patterns and makes it manifest before you. So in other words, life is saying, here, look, you notice what you're doing? This is the same as yesterday, and yesteryear, and yesterlife. How about making a few changes? But nobody's listening because we're too busy.
Is there any way of closing the aperture?
You are the aperture and you are closed. That's the problem.
So
I can see you haven't really got what I'm talking about. The aperture is like a closed door. That's the human. What we should do is just be open.
but
There's
the way
nothing.
that I look at it, it seems like there is no way to actually close the aperture that we are, because life is always flowing through us, but just the way that it manifests can be controlled by us. And so
The way it manifests is the art of life. The art of life is as life is flowing through you in the moment, because it's the eternal moment process. The art of life is to be loving and to feel compassion and to feel a joy and peace And as that flows through you, light flows through you, that's the expression, becomes the expression and the experience of your life. And this is how I experience it now. It's effortless. And you realize this is the art of life. You're the artist in the moment of life, creating.
I like your aperture metaphor, because in a way we could say that the art of life means to control, to find the right shutter speed, the right aperture, so that the picture then is a beautiful one. And we do that by our thoughts, our emotions, and all of that, which basically defines the and if it's not, maybe it's not a photography, but maybe it's a movie that is constantly being projected, and then the way that movie looks, if it's a beautiful one, that is, or not, that is determined by how we actually control, how we manipulate that light that is coming through us, right? Like a camera.
And in the end, you can't manipulate it because it would be too difficult. So all you can do is raise your consciousness. So your consciousness has an inner state that you don't have to think about or feel, but an inner state of peace and love and compassion. That is your natural expression, and life picks it up and makes it manifest. That, to me, is the art of life. To reach that, and that is not control. That is letting go of control.
It's interesting. I get what you're saying. I probably a way that I would look at it also is that there's no way that you cannot be an artist of life. There's no way. We're all artists of life, and it's just a matter for most people. The artwork that they produce is pretty grim, sad, frustrating, full of suffering, and the real art of life is when you actually begin creating beautiful artwork, right? Could that be? Is that the way it could be phrased?
I think it has been. I have been known to say, in every moment of your life, you are creating.
I never heard that.
You are creating the direction and content of every moment of your life. And if people will sort of pick up on that and they realize, oh my God, he means every moment, then you can't control that. It's completely impossible. Nobody could control that. And in fact, the only thing that seeks to control is fear. Fear seeks to control. Love is a freedom song. And so love, when you're loving, in other words, as I'm also saying continually over and over, your relationship with yourself is your relationship with life. So when you're loving yourself, not saying, oh, I love me, I love me, I love me. Oh, I'm so sweet, I love me. But simply just having an energy of self-love that is constantly flowing and moving gently, that is, life picks that up and flows it through you. And life says, hi, I love you too. And life becomes beautiful.
And in a funny way, that sentence that you just mentioned and that you're known for, also could be applied to a camera too, right? Because the content, in a way, let's say what is in the picture, that what we see in the end is the content that we give life, and then the direction is like, where we're actually pointing at. So the direction is where that light then flows. The life flows through us, manifests in that place where we actually put the content through our focus. So sticking with that metaphor, I think it's very complete. It's a complete picture.
I think also, if you imagine you're in a huge room and you're surrounded by artists, and standing up the front is the subject, we'll say a naked man or woman, and everybody's doing their art, and these are all complete amateurs, and there's about 1,000 in this room. It doesn't matter if the 999 do a dreadful portrait of that woman, and you are able to do it perfectly. And so your picture is not affected by any others. Equally, if you live in a city and there are millions of people around you, and you have this beautiful relationship with yourself, inner peace, inner joy, inner love, inner balance, your art becomes your life. And it doesn't matter if you're surrounded by 10 or 20 million people who are doing it wrong. Your life becomes the perfect life, the perfect reflection of your own art of life. And that's a beautiful thing, that mass consciousness can't overwhelm you. Because for most people, that mass consciousness does overwhelm them. But if you put the antenna of self above mainstream consciousness and you put it up above, then you tune into the beauty and the joy and all the human love that there is. And it's a million times more powerful than the low energy. It's far, far more powerful. And so you are able to produce the perfect art of life in the middle of a city, surrounded by everybody else who gets it wrong. Not bad, but they are not doing it as perfectly as they could. And that's an enormous freedom to know that you're not, in fact, overwhelmed by the mass.
Could you be overwhelmed by the mass?
Only if you abdicate from the throne of your own responsibility.
How did you do that?
In other words, to abdicate, well, you abdicate by just saying, no, I don't think I can do this. What difference do I make? No, I'm not clever enough. In other words, that's how I grew up.
It's the thought patterns that we nurture that keep us in that.
When you're bottom of the class every year and your parents tell you what an idiot you are, well, probably not quite in those words, but why don't you do better? Why aren't you as smart as your brother? You tend to grow up with a pattern. However, because you're down in that low position, the teachers and the system is unable to get many bricks in the wall. And so when you leave school, you just step over the little bit of wall that they did manage, and you're free to create your own life. Of course, you don't know you're free to create your own life.
Some people are living in a bunker, according to that.
That says it well. That says it very well. Most people are still living in bunkers instead of coming out and walking around on the surface.
And isn't that bonkers?
Oh my God, the war has ended.
Yeah.
And the war is often our youth. No, to take that seriously as a metaphor, the war is often the battle of youth and growing up and getting through school and parents and all that to finally one day realize, hey, I don't have to bunker down. I can walk on the surface and the sun is shining. It's beautiful up there. And but that does take a few years to do it. This is why I think one of the eternal errors is to start dying in our 70s and 80s and even younger. If we were to live to be 140, which is our true lifespan, there'd be a lot more enlightened people around, or the world would have gone completely insane, one or the other.
Which is what we have anyhow, so.
That's right, we have that anyway.
Have you ever painted or drawn or engaged any artistic activity?
When I was a number of years ago, I don't know whether you remember this, of course you're just a youngster and you might not remember this, but a book was published, Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember it. It did well. The book, it was a whole new thing, Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain. And basically you did it.
How does that work like that?
No, you drew upside down and that forced you out of the left brain.
Okay.
Completely, you couldn't do it with the left brain because left brain is logical. And so it immediately say, turn it round. And so you didn't turn it round and it forced you to draw on the right side of the brain. Nice. And I found I was pretty good at that, but I didn't stick with it. But I did some amazing drawings. I mean, we're not talking art. And I thought to myself, my God, if I stay with this, I could develop some good stuff.
The reason I'm asking is because I feel that there's an interesting parallel between the sensation, the feeling you get when you begin expressing yourself creatively on a canvas, on a piece of paper, or through a camera, whatever way you choose. And actually that very moment when you realize that your life is your artwork. I think
Yeah.
there's a parallel, because it's very empowering. So when you just take a piece of paper and you take a pen, whatever, and you just begin drawing, and suddenly you're like, wow, this is nice. Or you're just feeling like, nice flow, just drawing whatever, putting some colors on paper, and you're beginning to like it, and you realize, wow, it's me doing this. And then there's a certain kind of self-empowerment that comes through this. And I think there's a parallel, like that moment when you actually realize, I can create, I'm creating my life constantly, as I'm an
I think
artist.
I agree. I think there is a parallel. My art form is in the garden,
And in your
and even,
words.
and even with words, yes, articulation and drawing word pictures, but also like at the recent orchid show, I bought a number of dwarfed oncidiums, which is an orchid, but they only have leaves about that long, and they have lovely sprays of flowers. And I brought them home, and they're each one on a little piece of bark. How could I use these creatively? And so I sort of put them aside and just look at them and keep that in mind. And yesterday I was walking through the garden in a part that I don't go so much, and I kicked something. And when I looked to see what I'd kicked, it was an old piece of tree fern trunk, and it was about this long. And I looked at it, and bang, bingo! I
There you go.
instantly saw. And so I picked it up and plonked it down in the pot that fitted it perfectly, a nice ornamental pot. And then I cut holes in it with a knife, cut holes into it, and then I plugged in the orchids in it, and I put them all round. Now, next year, that is going to look absolutely stunning. In fact, I might even send you a photograph. It will look stunning next year.
I
Now,
can't.
that to me is art unhurried, because I knew there was something I could do with them that would come out very creative. And so, the result was, it will be, and it gives me enormous pleasure just to do something like that, which is really just seeing something and then waiting for the other object you need to happen, and then they come together. That's life.
Yeah,
That's the art of life.
I guess this creative expression, or this creative form of living, is in any way, shape, or form, whether it's through carpentry, metalwork, or whatever you do, is empowering you to step up to the throne of your responsibility, right? And I think it's kind of interesting that so many people, if you ask them, say, "Are you an artist?" or they would say no, and they would say, artists are a small group of people who dedicate themselves to creating art, right? That's what most people would give as a definition. But then, if you give them something to create, whatever material, whatever it's a camera, whatever it is, they get into the space of being a creator, being more of an artist. And there's this strong parallel. I'm seeing this right now between accepting yourself as a creative being, or so-called artist in some way, and then also managing the art of life, right?
Well, I think a lot of art, a lot of creative people, it's externalized
Right.
and idealized, but they don't have any art in life. They can express art through them. Whereas I think the art of life is internalized and becomes the constant flowing expression of your being. And that would have to be the ultimate life form. In other words, the ultimate art form is you, not what you put on paper or in a garden or anywhere else, but when you become the ultimate life form, so that if you were put in any situation, your consciousness is such that it would find the most creative way to live in there, where you are still maintaining that peace and joy an inner harmony, an inner balance. No matter what the outside situation, you could still internalize the art of life. That's
I
what
agree with
I mean. I also love the insights. To me, insights are an expression of the art of life. Now, the other day I was writing a Facebook, and as I wrote it, I suddenly had this insight. You might have read the Facebook, but I was writing about, actually, I can't remember what I was writing about, but what I realized was that war, which we've had all through the ages, all wars, I've often wondered, why do we go to war? I mean, why are people led to go and fight other people they don't meet, they don't know? What is in us that allows us to be led? And then I realized that this has been a progression throughout our civilization to fight. There has always been those who have manipulated others to fight. And gradually I saw that while there is a war on the go, while there is fighting happening, then you are increasing fear and blame and anger and reaction. That's the sequence. Fear, I blame you. I am angry at you. I fight you. That's the retaliation or the reaction. And all that is a denial of love. It makes it more difficult for love to become the dominant expression, which changes everything. There's a song, love changes everything. And that is so true. And so it's like all through the ages there have been those who have done everything they can to create wars, and the rest of us are manipulated that easily into going to war. But why do people go to war is simply because the people are angry and fighting themselves. And so therefore, they don't have the art of life in them. And so therefore, they go out and kill, because that's like an externalization of them killing themselves.
So I think we're touching on a very important point here that also is part of the art of life, which is that moment where you mentioned it before, that moment of self-responsibility, that moment of not putting the finger out anymore, blaming anyone, but just taking full responsibility. And that's probably maybe that's the moment when the real art of life, the way we mean it, begins, right? The moment that very moment when you stop looking outwardly and begin looking inwardly.
And when you realize that you are the world, you are the universe, you are humanity. When you realize you're all that, that's basically when you take sovereignty. It's a word that's being thrown around a lot now, but I have a suspicion that a lot of people who are talking about their sovereign self have a fair way to go. But that's fine, they're on their journey, and that's wonderful. But sovereignty, sitting on the throne of your own sovereignty, is being self-responsible. There's nobody else is responsible. But when we grow up, our parents are responsible for us. When we become parents, we're responsible for our children. In each case, there's a point where you're no longer responsible.
What is it that can speed up our process? Let's say we are in this non-sovereign situation. We are being in some way controlled by what others think or feel or say, whether it's the government or just our parents or whatever. And we are slowly waking up to that fact. What can we do to speed up that process of claiming our own sovereignty, claiming our own throne back?
I think the only thing you can do is when you're awakening to that, and the majority are not, but when you're on that path of awakening, you have to realize that everything that feels true to you, you have to live it. As an intellectual idea, nothing happens. And so long we've been processed through the schools and universities to become intellectually clever. We actually think now that that is a way to move through life. And the result that we see around us now is a result of that. what we see going on today as a result of that. And so what you have to do is not intellectualize it, live it. You have to live it. Get the frog, put it in the aquarium, keep it by your bedside. So all night, live it, live it, live it, live it, live it, live it, and then all day you live it. And so we have become brilliant at the intellectualization of life and terrible at the intelligence of life. The intelligence of life lives it. The intellectualization thinks about it.
And therefore we're trapped in a place where we don't really have access to the art of living, right?
Exactly right. And it's interesting to realize that love is a vast intelligence. You know, we have all these things that we think love is. Love is truth. Love is a vast intelligence. It's the expression of the universe. It's all expressed through this thing of love. And when you think about that and our little aspect, oh, I had a pie last night, an apple pie. I loved it. And and it's not bad or wrong, but that's how we trivialize love down to our enjoyment. Just something we enjoy. That's how we trivialize love. And it's a shame in a way, because when you move into that consciousness, you begin to feel a sense of awe over what love is.
You know, and love would you to stick to hmm?
I was going to say, sometime just find on Google, Love Changes Everything, sung by Michael Ball.
Okay.
B-A-L-L, Michael Ball. Just listen to it. And you sort of think, yeah, right. That really says it. Or there are others sing it, but he sings it very nicely.
Okay. So, and then
that's to everybody who's listening. That's to everybody who's listening. Sarah Whiteman and Michael Ball, they each sing it very, very differently. Love changes everything. You need to hear it. Let it into your heart. Listen to it. Listen to it. It's worth it.
Going back to what we were just saying before, what keeps us trapped in that situation is that we're basically somehow addicted to fear, right? Or we're like, we just.
I think more we've become a creation of fear, and fear doesn't exist. So we exist, we give it existence, so it justifies our living.
And then, over the ages.
In everyday language, people are talking about my fear. Oh, how do I get rid of my fear? It's that, you know, if you want to get rid of it, you don't own it.
And then through eons of experiences, our soul, like the glass of water that gradually fills up, and then some point it just flows over through all the experiences that we've been through, just reaches that point where it's like, stop, I need to look inwardly, right?
My glass just keeps pouring out. It's just a continual flow of life.
No glass anymore, just a waterfall.
It's like, you know, you don't have to, I don't know, there is such a deep trust in life. And I am life. There is such a deep trust in self, in life, in love, in all, and the knowing of that you're forever, you're an eternal being. There's such a deep residual power in that.
I didn't look at the time. I have no idea if I didn't put a timer on this time. So, but I feel like maybe we should come to a close slowly.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're there.
Okay. So, how about a closing remark where you would kind of give people a helping hand in these very difficult times right now, how to embrace the art of life even stronger, in a deeper way, maybe, yeah.
I would like to say, ask yourself, why do we have such adversity? I don't have any, but most people have tremendous adversity in their life. Why? It's because only when we're in enormous adversity, pressure going against us, that we begin to look for a better way. That's only then. When there are wars, we grow in consciousness. When no war, we just cruise along and get more and more discontented, which is an amazing thing. In the middle of a great war, we're contented, even if sweets are rationed. Oh my God, I got a bar of chocolate this week.
Crazy, huh?
It's only got to last me a month. Wow, you're so pleased with that, with so little. And Jonathan, Karen's son, when he went to Guyana, I think it was, and he saw poverty, and the kids were the happiest kids he's ever seen. And they had nothing, and they'd share it with him. Every meal, they'd share what they had with you. He said there was nothing. They lived in poverty. It impacted him to the extent he was almost ashamed when he came back to be an American. And so now there is enormous hardship and adversity impacting a great section of humanity. We've created this as a last-ditch attempt. Can we find the way to grow in this? Can we be content with less? Can we turn within to find the depths of who we are instead of living the superfluous of who we are not? Because the truth is, a human being, and this means you, a true human being is a magnificent, metaphysical, multidimensional, immortal, eternal being of love, the power of creation, and light, the illumination of eternity. And all you have to do is seek that truth in you, because you are that truth. And your personality can take it on, your life can take it on, and you can express it. Nobody cannot do this because they're too handicapped. It's there within us. And this is now a pressure to move that way, or to move into a new cycle of the more of the same. And honestly, you really don't want to do that.
We'll leave it at this for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Michael, for being here.
And thank you, people, for listening and being with us. And if you like this, Sascha will tell you what to do with it.
If you like this, there are a couple of ways you can subscribe to this channel. You can like the video, you can share it, you can donate to Michael down there, you can join one of his courses, you can buy some of his books. There are a couple of ways. You find his website below, and I would say see you in the next session.
What is nice is to come on the webinars so we all grow together. That's a great contribution to humanity. Okay, thank you, Sascha, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michael.